Welcome to another episode of Cultivate. This is a show about you and your journey in the cannabis industry. It's moving fast, but there's room for everyone. Buckle up as we bring you the people and the technology that are blazing the trail.
I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm thrilled to be here. And we've got Dustin Steerman
From ePac.
ePac. We're excited about ePac. We're partnered with you on a number of things that we're not at liberty to discuss publicly, which makes it really tempting to want to talk about them for the whole podcast. But I've got questions for you. Just generally, can you give us an overview of ePac, what you guys do? I'll interrupt you constantly and ask you really annoying questions. And Scott will add color. It'll be fun.
Sure. So my name is Dustin Steerman, managing partner with ePac. We're a market disruptor in the flexible packaging industry. Flexible packaging is going to be anything that you might find on the grocery store shelf, from a bag of granola to a bag of popcorn, a wrapper that's used to cover a protein bar, stick packs that you pour out a little bit of energy mix into a bottle of water, for example. NRC is a great thing that you might find in the little sachets. Dump it into your bottle. And our model is focused on speed to market, creating a lot of flexibility for the end consumer. Consumers vary from lawn and garden, as I mentioned, food, sports nutrition, pet treats, a huge market segment.
In earnest, you started pursuing the cannabis industry right around the time we met you. I want to say we met you at CannaCon a couple of years ago.
Sure. So, our focus on the industry is just really understanding where the industry is going and what it needs as it relates to regulations. We focus on making child-resistant packaging, which is utilized in many different industries. Pool and chemicals is a great example. Vitamins and nutraceuticals is another example, where you see a lot of markets are shifting away from rigid containers and going into flexible. But with that comes complexity, because in flexible, there's been a limited amount of technology in the marketplace that allows it to be a child-resistant solution. So when we got involved with the industry 2 years ago, we started to look at how do we bring a child-resistant solution to the market that is retail ready. What we saw was really the only solution was an exit bag when it came to the flexible space, which is not ideal for holding 100 milligrams of XYZ product.
Right. So you didn't start in cannabis.
We did not.
How long ago did you start?
We started in 2016. It was
Okay.
our proof of concept facility in Madison, Wisconsin.
So how was that transition into cannabis? Was it jump right in, or tip your toes in, or?
Sure. So the market found us. When we launched the business, we went to market with a very agnostic approach, which is we're a market disruptor. We know we have a lot of value to offer, and we're going to allow the industries that we serve tell us how they want to leverage our platform. So we've been learning about our platform since we really had inception in 2016.
Well, and that's another thing that we have in common. I know we've discovered a lot of things in common between our companies, but one of the things I didn't realize we had in common was the cannabis industry found Boveda as well. I mean, we had been an established two-way humidity control company. We created the category 22 years ago and got into it in the cigar market, and then subsequently in the guitar market and the precious musical instrument market. So we didn't conceive of cannabis even being a market for us until people in the market came to us. So your exposure to the market, I want to ask you about the many states that have come on board and the challenges that it presents to a packaging company, because it's not just a homogenous marketplace. You're dealing with different regulations and different rules in every state. I'm sure some of them are similar between the states, but how challenging has it been for you to reach the marketplace, and what have you been doing in order to get connected to some of the bigger players?
Sure, it's actually a great question, and it's one of our key differentiators. It's why we're disrupting an industry, being flexible packaging, which is then being utilized in many different market segments, from food to cannabis to lawn and garden, as I said earlier. Where we're able to create value is because we're an all-digital platform. So that's our key disruption in the FlexPack space.
So get specific about that so that the listeners and viewers at home can comprehend what it means to be an all-digital format. What does that really mean?
It means that you don't have any fixed hard assets when you're producing a custom printed package. So in a traditional manufacturing environment, if you're going to have 5 different versions of your product, 5 different flavors, you're now buying printing plates for every single individual flavor. Because you're producing in a digital platform, we go directly from the PDF file onto our presses, which bypasses a plate making process.
So that allows people to do short runs and not commit to high volume.
That's certainly a key component. With the press itself, in conjunction with bypassing plate making, we are able to do short to medium production runs, and that's relative.
Yeah.
When we first started, short production runs, were X, and today they could be Z depending on the customers that we're servicing. Right. But going back to how we're working with key players in the market are able to offer value, because we're an all digital platform, there's no hard assets as it relates to the plates and other components that they're needing to bring their packaging to market. And because we don't have necessarily minimums per SKU, we now allow operators that might exist in multiple states the ability to aggregate their packaging for each state, place one order. The order might be 350,000 units, but it's across 5 states, and it might be 5 SKUs per state, so you have 25 actual SKUs.
Wow.
And you're now leveraging the benefit of costing structure because you're able to aggregate that volume, as well as have the flexibility on really ordering to demand.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, that I'd consider that a breakthrough in the printed packaging industry. That's extraordinary when you consider one of the biggest issues that comes up consistently. We see this everywhere we go, is sustainability and people being conscious of the environment and how much plastic is in the packaging. How do they manage for? We run into this a lot in Canada. I mean, the restrictions and the regulations are such that the packaging in some circumstances got to be so dense and it got to be so cumbersome that the consumer would get the package, and even though they're primarily excited about what's inside that package, they're looking at all the packaging and there's some really cool packaging. There's some really cool child-proof things that they've done, but it's so bulky and it's so raw material intensive that people are balking, at least from a values perspective, saying, why don't we come up with a more efficient way, a more earth-friendly way to deliver packaging? So talk about sustainability and where ePac is along that plane.
Great question. Another great question. You're on fire today.
These are all just spontaneous. I had a really good breakfast.
I wish I had a breakfast as good as yours.
We should have had breakfast together.
Next time.
Okay.
So
we will do this again. Because this is
MJ Biz, right? We should have some new things to talk about, and directly related to your question about sustainability. So put me on the books for December.
Nice. We'll do that. Yeah. We'll do that. Mark that down for December.
Oh, I forgot. MJ Biz is in December.
Yeah, MJ Biz is in December in Las Vegas.
They moved it this year.
Doesn't it overlap with Emerald Cup?
Right
as well?
Up against Emerald Cup. So we'll be at MJ Biz, and then we get on those little scooters that are outside, and we just zoom right up to Emerald Cup.
So I have a question about Canada specifically. So you're talking about the amount of packaging that people are upset with, and that's because you're ordering 1 gram of cannabis in Canada, and it's coming in a big jar. It's got cardboard box around it, all this plastic, and it's just overkill. Do you have a lot of customers in Canada? Are you seeing a trend of people switching from these big jars or containers to the soft-sided packaging?
So, great question, but I want to step back and address the sustainability question first, and then talk to you a little bit about Canada, if that's all right. So, when we got into the model that we now have and run into the marketplaces that we serve, we entered into the industry with, in our eyes, a little bit of a head start because our platform is really sustainable. We have much lesser emissions into the environment in comparison to a traditional manufacturer through the digital assets. We don't have wastewater in our facilities. We have much less waste within our actual manufacturing process as it relates to startups on the machines, for example. When we change SKUs on our presses, it takes a second and a half to go from version 1 to version 2. We don't stop the press and have to pull film through.
And for comparison's sake, the transition stage to replate and to do another setup, or that special setup charge that we always got in our printing bids, what would those normally take?
It could take anywhere from hour to hours.
So it really could knock you back half a day.
Sure, if you, depending on how much versioning you're changing. You know, if it's just a simple copy on the bag, it's going to be a minimal amount of time. But if you're really going in and changing the colors quite a bit, you're then having to recalibrate the colors based off of the Pantones that are called out. It could be lengthy. So in our model where you're printing digitally, it's a much quicker process, but that's high level. We're starting with a foundation that in our eyes is a benefit and a greater impact on the environment from a sustainability perspective. Then you start to look at how are we creating products that are sustainable. And since we first launched the business, we've seen the demand for sustainable packaging grow, I would say probably tenfold. When we got into Boulder 2 years ago, we were hearing inquiries of compostable, recyclable packaging, call it one a month. Now we see a few a week, and we've decided that we're going to invest in being able to come to market with sustainable packaging. So we purchased a pouch line in 2018 that was ePac's first recyclable pouch line. It had capabilities to allow us to actually manufacture recyclable pouch, which is a starting point, but then you have to learn how do you make a recyclable pouch, because the film is different. It has different characteristics. It's going to be less tension in the film, less rigid, so it's a more challenging product to produce. So we spent a good part of the end of 2018 going to early 2019 learning how to run this film, and we have come to market in the food space and other industries segments, pet treats, with an all recyclable pouch, and we have that in a high barrier format as well as a low barrier format. We have also been looking at compostable, and the compostable component for us is a little bit more challenging because we're an all digital platform and our downstream assets. It poses a little bit of a challenge from the standpoint of having an additional asset in order to produce a fully compostable product that you're going to want to put into the marketplace with proper protections of the inks and things like that. It gets very complex. So that's our product offering from an umbrella perspective. Compostable, recyclable as well as sustainable, but then you have to look at for the child-resistant markets and what's going to work in a child-resistant market. And you hear a lot of demand for compostable, but if the product is needing to pass a child-resistant certification, you really have to ask yourself, well, if this product's designed to be earth digestible, what kind of integrity is it going to have in a lab for passing a child-resistant certification? So because of that, we've pivoted and focused on a recyclable format for child resistance, and we are making progress.
In each one of those jurisdictions that you sell product in or serve customers in, they have different rules. They vary slightly. I mean, they're all generally in the same ballpark, but there's some very interesting differences between what Canada requires and what California requires and what Washington requires. It just strikes me that this speed of transition and sort of the being, it sounds like your company is very light on its feet in its ability to pivot and to provide people with a solution, and then with experience to alter and upgrade that solution as they go in the process. So the question I'd have for you in terms of the cannabis industry, where's the volume? Where's the mass opportunity? Because my experience in printing was back in the music industry. We'd do album covers and CD covers back in the old technology where we'd be packaging music to go to retail. And the volumes were really where we figured out what our breaks were, and it really affected our profitability. So I've got to believe that from a printer's perspective, you're always looking for places where you can have the most volume. I mean, volume is the driver to your profitability. It's my assumption. Is that even close to true?
Well, it depends. When you're looking at a digital platform, it's a little different. We like small volume and medium volume because it lends itself very well to the digital platform. That being said, we've learned that through our processes and the way that we've set up our operations that we can compete in larger volume as well. Going back to speaking about the markets and which markets we're focused on, we initially built in Boulder, Colorado for two reasons: the natural products industry and another industry that we saw needed flexibility and really a local service provider. ePac is a community-driven business. We build our facilities in communities all around the country that have saturation of businesses be it small, medium-sized businesses. It doesn't matter what industry segment they're in. Really, areas where there's high growth and companies that are going because there's a community that's been established that has this vibe and energy around it that supports entrepreneurs. So we enter those markets, and then we build our facilities to serve those markets. When we came to Colorado, we saw that there was a need to be able to produce child-resistant packaging, and we went down our path of how are we going to add that onto our platform. What's unique about our platform is the digital component is really, it's the workhorse. It's where everything exists, and then we can add small components in our facility to have really niche focus. So we followed what the state of Colorado has needed from the standpoint of regulations and child resistance, on the premise that the belief is other states will follow suit. And now when you look at the state of California, which we're here today, they have also developed their packaging requirements in a similar capacity to what Colorado's done. And at the end of 2019, going into 2020, every single package that has a level of THC in it, above, I guess it's above 1 milligram or 2 milligrams, will need to be in a child-resistant certified package. And then depending on how many milligrams it has, it will either need to be a single serve or a multi-serve package.
So what you just said that really caught my attention was, in the old days, only the big players had the opportunity to participate with the premier packaging outcomes, because the big players had, or they had to pay through the nose for their small lots and their small runs. But the technology that you're bringing to the table is really allowing a lot more access for people that are doing smaller volume to get the kind of premier packaging outcomes and the premier, pretty close to the same kind of cost performance as in the old days. You had to be, Kellogg's or General Mills or one of the big food processors in order to get the right deal to be the end quantity pricing on that price
Sure.
sheet. And so you're offering not only flexible packaging, but you're offering some flexibility in the cost consumption for these producers. So if I'm a cultivator, or if I'm a brand manager, what do I do to get a hold of ePac, and how do I initiate a relationship with your company?
Sure. So I want to speak a little bit to the size of brands that we service, and then go into how you can find us, which there's many ways. We're on social media too these days, right? Everybody's on LinkedIn and Instagram. But we serve all different size businesses. So our sales team, and we have sales teams in each market where we build a facility. And we typically will build a sales team in that market 9 months ahead of when the facility might launch. So going to your Canadian question, we just recently announced our first facility in Canada, and it'll be in Vancouver. And we're just now building our sales team, and we'll start to service the market in a bigger way in Canada in the forward months than we have previously. Going back into size of customer, our sales team will go to the local farmer markets and work with companies and businesses that are selling at the farmer's market that's in a stock bag with a label on it, and just exchange conversation, very casual, but let them know who we are, that we're opening up shop locally, and we love to be able to support them. In many cases, we're offering them a fully customized package that's actually a lower cost than them buying a stock bag and putting a label on it.
That's what I think is cool about Vancouver or BC in general, is you have a lot of these craft, smaller growers, the more boutique brands that aren't these big Auroras or Canopies and that are putting out millions of units a year. And with the whole new regulation in Canada, and you can have the micro cultivation, I think it's 2,100 square feet is your max canopy that you can have. And those are the type of people that aren't going to be able to afford these big production runs on bags or hard bottles or whatever it might be.
Sure.
We talked a little bit about sustainability, and then we were talking about markets and different markets that you're focused on. And you really blew up the whole traditional concept of printing, in that you introduced the notion of having these small runs that could be done in an efficient way and deliver a cost competitiveness. Like your example about the farmer's market was a fabulous one, because you got people at a farmer's market that are doing dozens and hundreds of packages versus the idea of doing thousands and hundreds of thousands of packages, and you're able to go out and to serve them with an efficiency that puts them at a customized printing at a cost point that's less expensive than them buying bulk and sticking a label on it.
That's right.
That's crazy.
It's mind-boggling when you think about it.
Do people get it? When you talk to, this is the interesting about packaging. There's a lot of packaging companies, and we run into a lot of packaging companies, and our attraction to packaging companies is that we believe that every packaged good that has precise humidity control needs a partner like us. So there's just a mystery about packaging, though, because you typically don't catch the sexiness. You don't understand what the real attraction is or what the differentiator is for a particular packaging company. So let's go back to what's really unique. Drive home the point about what's really unique, what's a differentiator, what's different about ePac than other packaging solutions.
So I think where we really find ourselves back at is at the point that we're a market disruptor. ePac's the first company in North America to build a full-service flexible packaging facility built solely around digital printing technology, and that's what our focus is changing an industry, changing the way that buyers go about procuring this packaging, understanding where their pain points are, where their needs are, and then utilizing our platform to resolve those pain points. Our CEO once said to me, we're a Swiss Army knife. We've got 24 different blades, and that is the reality. We are a Swiss Army knife, and we probably have more than 24 different blades.
So you're a solutions company.
We are a solutions company.
And so go back to my question about I'm a cultivator in Eastern Washington State, and I'm curious about what I'm going to do for my packaging, because everything's going to market now pre-packaged in Washington State. How would I get a hold of ePac for Eastern Washington?
That's where we left off. How do you get a hold of us? The most important part, right? Yeah. So you can go to our website, epacflexibles.com.
ePac.
Flexibles.
PAC.
Flexibles, FLEXIBLES.com.
Okay, thank you.
And through our website, you can request to contact us through a quote form. You can call us at our 1-844 number. You can find us on LinkedIn. We have a strong presence within LinkedIn, and we really focus on...
If you just put ePac in the search mode on, it'll come up with you or somebody else in the organization will pop up as a...
I would put in ePac Flexible,
okay,
and then hit search, and you'll probably find a good 90 to 100 of us on LinkedIn. A lot of our team is on that community. But where it starts for us is understanding where you're located within the country, and then we'll assign the right team member to work with you. As I said, being a community-focused organization, we have 6 plants running right now. We're in Madison, Wisconsin, Chicago, Illinois, Boulder, Colorado, Miami, Florida, Boston, Massachusetts, Austin, Texas. We're launching Southern California in the next 2 weeks. We've got Atlanta, Georgia, and Minneapolis, Minnesota coming online later this year. And
we're going to have to get you out to the headquarters to have a run through of everything that we're doing, and
we'd love to.
and get a tour of our facilities so that maybe we can come up with some solutions for Boveda that are also cutting edge, like what you're bringing to the cannabis market. What about the social media? How about
Instagram, Facebook,
so
Twitter, YouTube?
We're on YouTube with videos about how we serve our clients, customer testimonials. LinkedIn's been a great platform for us as it relates to being able to educate the audience, educate how to use our platform. Most companies, when they first hear of digital and flexible packaging, they think prototypes. How are you going to be able to service my business?
Right.
And we actually, right now, we're trying to determine how do we do a better job of making prototypes, because our assets are set up to really produce, call it 2,000 pouches is a small run for us. 5,000 custom pouches is a small run for us. But we have certain clients that will ask us to do 200,000 custom pouches, and we are digital, but we are also able to provide 200,000 custom pouches and do it within our speed to market timing of 15 business days.
So really quick, so the whole education piece and educating consumers or companies is something that we focus on, and we run into a lot of times that people look at Boveda as an added cost or not something that they're forced to do, but it's like they don't want to do it, but they know they have to. And I would assume for bags, it's the same ordeal where people are like, we have to buy bags. Cannabis has to be stored in bags. But really what we're trying to do is change the mindset of these buyers that, no, this is not an added cost. You're doing something that is going to make an impact on the end consumer. By putting it in this bag and using Boveda in there, you're protecting the quality of the product that you spent all this time growing and curing and perfecting. And now you're going on to the next step, spending the money, investing on something that's going to, one, protect it, and then make an impact when the consumer gets it and consumes it.
It's a great point, and I think we definitely follow the same exact path as it relates to educating a new buyer on their ROI, right? They're going to be putting this money up front. Where are they seeing the benefit long term? And I think when you look at what Boveda does, you're able to help them understand the preservation, whether it's weight or freshness.
Right.
You guys can speak to that better than I can, but when you look at our model, we really like to focus on helping a buyer come through their first journey with us and evaluating what are all the costs that really go into the package, right? You get an invoice, it says you're paying 15 cents a unit, but what else is really buried in there that you're not seeing on that invoice? One of the largest things that we see is inventory obsolescence. Because we're able to offer a print-on-demand model, you're not buying more inventory than what you need. And when you look at an industry like the cannabis industry, where regulations are changing every 6 months, it's very often that you'll see brands are throwing away packaging that was custom printed with a regulatory requirement that is no longer valid based off of new requirements. We've seen it happen with the logos on the front of the bags as it relates to the THC warning. I think last year, July 2018, the state of Colorado changed and went to a universal logo. And because of that, brands had to go and get labels to put on their bags or discard the inventory. So a small change from a regulatory perspective can have a major impact to a lot of brands from a cost perspective.
Talk about disruptive. I mean, the coming up with partners that you can rely on to deliver. I mean, one of the things I was impressed with your explanation was if I placed an order today, I'm going to have packaging in hand within a couple of weeks. That's pretty spectacular.
Couple to a few weeks rather than 8 to 12, right?
Right.
That's the standard. You still see a lot of the market that's buying through a service provider who then is buying it from overseas. And the complexities with purchasing from overseas, and we go back to the ROI study. Well, sure, on a price per unit basis, we're going to be at a premium, but when you look at lost opportunity, because your packaging's not arriving on time, we've found that the cost to pay a premium for that package is a lot less than the lost sales that you're not able to achieve because you don't have a package to put your product into and get it on shelf.
Yep.
Well, it's exciting for us to be involved with a company like yours. ePac, flexible packaging, you got to check them out. Find them online, find them on the social networks, give them a shout, get a bid, find out how this new technology, this new era in digital printing and digital packaging solutions is going to potentially change the dynamics of your cannabis outcomes for your brand. And it's all about brand. I mean, everybody's bringing their brand to the market. They want to have the best looking packaging. They want to be the most sustainable, the most responsible to our planet. And I just think it's really awesome what you guys are doing. I know it's a privilege for us to be involved with you.
Feelings are mutual. We're really excited about the collaboration that we have with Boveda and some of the opportunities that we're looking at and how it can add value to the markets that we serve.